Hello, YouTube. I'm Vanya Loswen. I build fun and sometimes ridiculous things on Twitch, and I'm excited because Satisfactory is having its 1.0 release soon. As a sneak peek, I'd like to share this tour of my first factory, which I built during early access. What you'll see here is mostly a tour from April 2021 in the experimental build, which has a red ribbon in the upper left. There'll be a few flashbacks to the March 2021 tour in the stable build, for some close-up views and some further commentary on things that didn't change much. The narration assumes some familiarity with the game, but if you're not familiar, don't worry, I will be a lot more informative when we do a full playthrough together. At the time, I just wanted to preserve my work, and now I finally get to share it with all of you. So we'll find out together how my final release factory is similar or different, both because of changes to the game itself and just because I don't want to build exactly the same thing twice. So please enjoy the tour, and follow me on Twitch or subscribe to this channel to see what I make next. Greetings and welcome to my factory in the experimental build of Satisfactory in the grasslands. I am standing on top of the giant archway, which is in the grasslands, which has a lovely view of all the surrounding country. It's the one with a SAM ore node in the cave at the bottom. And from this spot, we can see a lot of the main parts of my factory. If I head up here, you can see there's the ladder I used to get up here. We've got my space elevator, prominent as always. Right here, kind of next to it, at the bottom of a cliff, are the iron nodes, which I first tapped, and the copper nodes on top of the hill there. You can also see there's my particle accelerator, which is firing up, it looks like. You can see the water pipes leading into some coal burners there. The big structure where I've got manufactories. Here comes Floaty Friend. I've got sulfur coming down from a hill into this little outpost. We've got electronics manufacturing on that ridge up there. So, let's get in position to pull an avatar and jump onto Floaty Friend as he comes by. You can also see the long conveyor belt heading out to a coal node out that way. There's Caterium on the far side of the copper. We'll get a much better view from our buddy here. Because I didn't plan this, of course, but this guy is perfectly positioned to give a nice aerial view of most of my factory in this area. So, this is about the best tour you could ask for. Alright, careful jump here. Lag out. This is the wrong time to lag. Woo! That was close. Alright, and we are now riding the giant alien flying creature. Let me be clear, Avatar had problems, but art was not one of them. And I'm getting some serious vibes from this. Got little babies. We'll just stand right on its head here. Hello, confusing creature. Hello, power slug that I missed over there. I'm sure I'll go get you at some point. Some of this stuff away. That's better. Alright, so we can get a better view of the coal mine. That's a little coal node over there, and it's got a long conveyor belt over to the coal burners, and whatever doesn't get burned goes into steel production. There's the Caterium way over there. Copper nodes are down in that little hollow. There's the particle accelerator. I don't have it producing quite constantly because it takes a lot of copper dust, but I've ramped up production quite a lot. You can see a whole line of smelters there. Also produced a lot of cubes for that thing. There's the copper going in. Over here, wire and cable are coming in. These are the iron nodes where most of the basic production of the iron materials is happening. And here comes the space elevator, and I need to be careful because Floaty Friend is going to clip through it. It can clip, but I don't get to. You have a very good look at everything. In fact, I could go through and analyze this frame by frame and label everything, I'm sure, if I was going to be real careful with it. That is nice. Still haven't done anything with photo mode. I really should. Again, just for posterity's sake. There we go. Now down there is where all the manufactories are. And I've got this giant conveyor belt of doom heading way off towards electronics production. Let's get a view of the manufactories. There they are. You can also see the coal burners over there. Down here is where sulfur is coming in. There's also some production of screws happening over here, and some of those metal frames. So there's kind of some secondary production happening over here. I've got this elaborate spiral bringing down black powder and coal because when I first started playing, it took me a while to figure out that you could connect the vertical conveyor belts to things up high and string them down to a lower place. And so when I wanted to move stuff downwards, I tended to build those spiral switchbacks instead. See, these stacks of conveyors, see, look how cool that is. How it just spirals down. It takes a lot of time and effort to set them up. But then you don't have to, like, stay out of the way of a vehicle. You don't have to worry that the vehicle path will be deleted if you have to get rid of the vehicle for some reason, like that time I drove it into a lake. I spent so long trying to record a good path the first time I was trying to use a vehicle, and eventually I got one that worked. And then at some point I had cause to drive the vehicle manually and it went into a lake, and then I had to destroy the vehicle in order to rebuild it, but that erases the path, and at that point I just said, alright, you know what? I'm just gonna put conveyor belts everywhere. Because I can. And that's when this happened. That's most of the factory. I'll let this guy take us to a better place here. There's the arch I was standing on before. Eventually he's gonna loop around and fly underneath it. Lots more resource nodes in this area. Okay, there he goes. Instead, I think... No, I'll just drop off here. Alright. Geronimo! Not land in poison. There we go. So now seeing it more from the ground, there's the particle accelerator. I kind of took the trouble to put walls on some of these, but I don't like to fully enclose my spaces. I just kind of use the walls when they're useful to organize things. And these stacked conveyor belts, I think, are kind of a trademark of my style. The friend of mine who got me into this game has a completely opposite design philosophy. He likes to use a lot of vehicles, which when I was at least starting out, I just ran conveyor belts everywhere. Now, one exception to that is I've got this drone port here, which is bringing some stuff from a advanced area, which we will go see in a moment. We've got manufacturers here making a lot of the advanced stuff. We've got some control units here. Got turbo motors and thermal propulsion rockets, you know, all the good end game stuff. Now over here, we can join the conveyor belt of doom. This is how I get around. Making filters down there, just the poison filters. The iodine filters I'm making up at the electronics area, which is where we're going. Not much of a view here because I didn't renovate this belt to put the tube at the top, so some of the others will look a little nicer. That's the artifact where I first noticed the interesting lines if you don't pick them up right away. So here's the electronics manufacturing area. Got circuit boards coming in. This place just drinks in plastic without ceasing. It's amazing. Making some other interesting things here too. High-speed connectors, well, that's just electronics, but also the iodine-infused filters. Autosave is slowing us up a bit. If I come back down here, we will head off towards the beach. Actually a slight stopover at one useful crossroads. A fair amount of lag here. I didn't bother to go around and collect all those artifacts because they don't really do anything yet. Now this is where Quarts is coming in from, where that's being mined. This is the beach headed off towards the oil islands. You can already see all the line of refineries in the distance. I love this straight downhill shot. All right. So here we've got a setup which I feel is pretty clever in some ways. I've basically got a manifold that's stacked for plastic and rubber. And it's built so that if I ever wanted to switch which one of those two things a refinery was making, all I'd have to do is reconfigure the conveyor belt to go to the top or the bottom, and it would just merge in properly. So that all heads off here. Now, if there's any overflow, which it looks like there is for rubber at the moment, that goes off here towards the awesome sink, but there's a smart splitter here. And if anything coming to the awesome sink is is rubber or plastic, then it comes over here to the appropriate factory, well, refinery, which turns it into the other thing. So if there's an overflow of either one, and it's always been rubber thus far, then it just gets turned into the thing that there's not an overflow of. So I'm getting lots of extra plastic, which is good because, as previously noted, the circuit boards just drink it. In fact, it looks like I may want to adjust the balance of what I'm making here. But not during a tour. I've got some blenders churning out turbo fuel, which I unlocked rather recently. Loads of fuel burners. Some of them are still burning standard fuel, just kind of to address the balance of what's being made by all the other items, because I've got some of the rubber and plastic manufacturing happening over here too. I set this up in part because fairly early on I got the alternate recipe for polymer, polyester fabric. So I just set that up early and set up some rubber and plastic with it. So I like this setup. And the awesome sink is just kind of handling this extra fuel just to get some of the extra fuel out of the system. When I was first setting this place up, all the coal burners were on this hillside here. The oil thing over there, for the longest time I didn't realize there was an oil patch there, just because all I ever noticed was the uranium node that I didn't want to go near for a long time. I actually have not set up any nuclear power in this factory. I was totally going to. You know, I was all set to scope out a place to dump the waste and everything, and they'd introduced the plutonium stuff, and but then I realized, oh, all the stuff that you actually need to send up the space elevator doesn't require any of that. You don't need to work with any of the nuclear stuff, so I just skipped it. Because who wants to figure out where to dump a bunch of plutonium waste? Now here is where aluminum manufacturing is happening. So we got all this stuff coming in, quartz and sulfur. The sulfur is going into sulfuric acid to make batteries. And got all the aluminum manufacturing happening over here. Getting turned into plates and casings. Oh. You're stuck, aren't you? Huh. Oh well. Got some coal plants here that are using the compacted coal. I haven't set that up at the main base yet. I'm not sure I really have a need to. But over here is where pretty much all the drone traffic is centered, because I've got a drone coming into this pad from the sulfur mine, which you kind of saw from a distance. If you're familiar with the map, then you probably know where I'm getting it from. But there's a drone that brings sulfur in here, and that gets put into this big box so that it can get used here and at the turbo fuel making area. And then there's this drone port here, which just transports back the various advanced materials that get made here. So extra batteries, both to fuel the port over there and to get turned into stuff. Some extra motors, the cooling system, and the fused modular frames. So all those are getting shipped back to the manufacturing port through this. Now in terms of the motors that are being made here, I actually set up a secondary basic parts manufacturing area way over out in the desert. You can kind of see, it's kind of out where this explorer is. And I'm not sure if driving the explorer is actually any faster than walking, but let's do it anyway. My friend had his starting point in the desert, and he had a hard time driving things through this area because of those dunes that are just hard to work around. So, out here, the original purpose of this area was seriously just to build basic iron parts so that I could construct all the stuff that we just saw over at the aluminum area. It's just an extra basic stuff production zone. So we've got some concrete over there. Got a bunch of iron nodes around this rock formation. And then we've got copper coming from kind of a ways away, but not too far. I could see how, you know, if you were using the desert starting zone, then yeah, this is probably a very good place to set up shop. But it's seriously just to support building in the aluminum area. And then as soon as I needed copper, well, I'm just bringing it in from here. Because, yeah, my friend who plays this, he does the thing where he brings all the raw material in to the same big mega factory and builds everything on site. But I tend to be a lot more distributed. I come out to these places and get the stuff locally and set it up that way. Here's a lovely drone. Now this drone also brings in some things. Really it just brings in the sturdy modular frames, because that's what gets used to make the fused modular frames. So those just go back and forth. Over here, here's the sulfur drone coming in. So yeah, this links up with the desert starting area. I've got this elaborate system getting the bauxite from up there, and some coal from kind of deep in the red forest that way. And yeah, that's my factory. You can see here's the full extent of what I've explored. I don't really intend on exploring too much beyond this, actually, just because I don't want to see too much of the other areas. Just so that I have some mystery for when the game finally launches. So by the time you see this, that might have already happened. But in the meantime, thanks for joining me.